So we're going to take a little look at the damage now. None's in the spoiler, where the pillar just basically went like that. There's another crack down here. Brand new splitter that was on there for about all of 2 minutes. I think I might have f***ed up.
Hi guys, welcome to AK88 on Cars. As you can see, we're changing things up. It's been a little while since I've made a video, so I thought there's been quite a lot of change to the car, so I think I need to make some change to how I record videos. So we have migrated from my gaming setup in my bedroom into my lounge. So it's been quite a while since I've made a new video. It's probably about a year, and there's a reason for that, and hopefully you can tell from the clip intro of what it's going to be about. So this time we're going to talk about the aero and bodywork that's been done to the VX220 in the last 12 months or so. So I need to start off with how this all came about. So as many of you know, I'm restoring my late father's VX220. This is a car that he bought brand new in 2004, and that since he passed away, unfortunately from cancer about 3.5 years ago, I've been restoring the car. So the next thing on my mod list was to build the engine. So you might, if you've checked out some of my other videos, remember that the car's running around 330 brake horsepower at the fly, making about 300 brake horsepower dead at the hubs. So I started to buy sort of tweaky mechanical parts over the last year. You know, this starts from sort of aluminium griddles, so we can remove the balancer shafts, as well as some light and adjustable vernier pulleys, and a whole bunch of other sort of slightly specialist parts for a number of really cool companies that I've been watching for some time. So that was going to be the plan. I was going to build the engine, we were going to make 400-500 brake horsepower and go from there. However, things happened. Now, one day when I was planning to go back home to Devon, I thought, well, it'd be a great idea to take the car. You know, at the time, it just sort of had the engine work done. You know, it was the beginning of the summer, and I thought, well, you know, there I was sort of rushing about, and as with all things in my life, I never damaged myself or anything else doing the crazy stuff I do. You know, I can jump out of a plane, I can do rock climbing without any ropes on, I can drive a car around a track that I've never driven before, and it's totally fine. But the only time I hurt myself or those things that I own are doing stupid things. And in which case, it was this time, and I was rushing, and I managed to reverse it into a concrete pillar in my own car park. Now, let's go over to younger and more foolish past Alex, who will explain a little bit more about the details of what happened.
So we're going to take a little look at the damage now to start off with. And to start off with, we start with the spoiler, where there's a nice crack there. And then if we look underneath, you can see it's also broken, the spoiler, where it contacts the main body. And then here we've got like a pressure crack where the panel basically, the pillar just went like that, which was great. Some scuffing above the number plate, and then below it we've got this crack where the swage joins. It's also pushed back where the rear number plate is. Then we come over down to this side here, we can see that there's been an impression crack there, and then over to the other side, another one there. And then last but not least, we come down to my brand new splitter, which was on there for about 2 weeks, which has been pushed in, and it's been cracked there. We pulled out rivets here, and it's also sort of pushed this whole panel back, cracking this and pushing the exhaust gasket back in. Not fun.
So as you can imagine, doing that to a beloved vehicle is not the best thing in the world. So one thing that when something bad happens to you, one thing that I'm always quite keen on is that you don't just replace like for like, you change for one better. So one of the things that I had been meaning to do, and I think my dad had been meaning to do, is to make some modifications to the clams, so the front and rear clams of the VX220, to make it more aerodynamic and to fit wider parts. Now, how do I know that my dad wanted to do this? Well, sitting at home, there was an Aladdin's cave of spare parts, and there was within there a damaged front and rear replacement quarter. And Dad used to like keeping the original, so he also, I'm sure, was planning to build the engine, because there was also a bone stock Z20 let out of another VX220 sitting in the corner of his garage too. These parts sat there for many years without really doing anything. From this I can sort of ensue that Dad probably wanted to cut clams to make aerodynamic modifications. So I thought, well, now that I've bashed or broken one of the clams, kind of like the cobwebs are off, and you know, we can get out there and really sort of hack into both of these, if you know what I mean. So I had no sort of resentment about going, well, you know, let's cut speed holes into it. So other than just cutting speed holes into things, I undertook some research and started looking around for part manufacturers that would make sort of slightly either aero focused or carbon related items. Again, you know, if we can save some weight whilst we're there, let's do that. So there's an Italian company called Eltec, which is run by a chap called Matteo, who's a nice guy and who I've been speaking to a little bit. So I thought this was the perfect time to order a number of parts. So Matteo and Eltec are a very interesting business because they craft so many of these replacement carbon body parts for so many cars, but especially focus on Lotuses and VX220s, which is phenomenal. It's not a mass-produced car, certainly the VX220, so it's really nice to find someone that has such a high catalogue of parts that you can install in a car. So I went through there and selected a number of products, and these were things from a slightly reshaped front carbon hood, which was kind of more in the style of the Lotus Elise, a little bit better airflow, but also actually significantly lighter. The fiberglass standard one was really quite heavy in comparison to the item that showed up. I managed to crack the rear spoiler, so I ordered a slightly larger ducktail rear spoiler as well. I might add more rear spoiler and rear downforce as part of the next sort of wave of works, but let's leave that to another day. I also ordered some front canards, which I hadn't really seen a lot of people put on VX220s in the UK, as well as some front wing vents, which are more popular, but I got the carbon ones as well. Now, with all things, I don't like just pure carbon fibre panels on a car, especially on a silver car. I don't think it kind of looks that great. I think you can get away with it on darker cars, or if your car's like a British racing green, then like pure carbon looks really good due to the subtle differences in sort of tone texture. But when you've got a bright silver, it's quite chalk and cheese. So I decided that I was gonna change it up from there. Just checking to see the awesome racing footage that's happening behind me and to make sure the video hasn't stopped. Anyway, back to the story. So I wanted to half paint a lot of the carbon. I'd done this previously with the rear carbon fibre boot lid that was on the car, which are actually quite rare. There's only sort of 2 or 3 of those carbon boot lids in existence, but just having just one carbon fibre panel on the car just kind of made it look really odd, so I wanted to change it up. So I must have ordered these parts, and I'm probably getting my dates mixed up, because I think I said earlier it was a spring drive. I have a feeling it was an autumn drive last year in 2023 when the initial bashing happened. So I think I made an order for the parts just before Christmas. Anyway, it was a little wait for those parts. They didn't really show up, I don't think, until sort of late March, early April. So, you know, they are bespoke made parts from a small specialist unit. Like, what else can you expect? So if you're bored, I'm now going to do a segment with Herbie, the Siberian mountain cat. Herbie, are you okay with this? It's just happy to be here. Just happy to be here. So the car was at Neil's getting the work done for probably like 5 or 6 months, and there were some real challenges in what we were asking Neil to do. So if we start from the rear of the car first, we were asking Neil to cut speed holes in the rear lower part of the clam. Herbie, can you just not? Okay, so Project Hold Herbie doing video backfired as a sneezing fit ensued. So what can you do? So back to the story. So Neil had to cut these rear speed holes in the rear clam, and I was originally hoping to make some of those cuttings a little bit higher up the bumper. You know, generally speaking, the higher up they are, I understand that aerodynamically, the better they are as well. We might have been able to link them to the rear wheel arches, and there's going to be some wheel arch modification in this on the front, which I'll come to in a minute, which is all about trying to reduce those arches being effectively like plastic bags. So at really high speed, you know, you get a lot of air trapped in there, so again, creates quite a bit of drag. But unfortunately, because of how the rear boot is designed, despite the boot only taking up a smaller portion of the rear clam, on the underneath there's a pretty large section that's entirely covered up, so pretty much everything above the sort of little hump in the exhaust is completely blocked off as well. So we stuck to doing cutting speed vents in the lower part of the bumper. Now, how effective are these? Again, with all things aerodynamic related, unless you're going to put it in a wind tunnel and do proper proper modelling and proper sort of drag calculations and all the really technical things and all the modelling that they normally do for cars, you know, a lot of this stuff is a little bit inaccurate. The other thing that we did on the rear was we fitted the ducktail spoiler. Again, kind of going to the same motion that, you know, I wanted it to be half painted. I think we got that balance quite right. And then coming onto the front of the car, we had those 3 parts to install. So we had the bonnet, which I half painted again. I thought about dragging the lines of the carbon so it went directly up, but I did some photo edits and we looked at it in the shop and it just didn't really work. So we managed to get a really nice line, or Neil did, should I say, just around sort of the openings, and I think it came out incredibly well. The other thing that we did is we put these front canards on. Now, when these came, we were a little bit concerned that they might be for the wrong car, because they really didn't fit too well. We tried them a couple of ways, and the angle of attack looked pretty crazy on some of them as well, and I sort of checked out photos that I could find on Instagram, and everyone's kind of installed them slightly differently as well. So in the end, we decided that we were going to cut off probably about a third of it and try and lower the angle of attack a little as well, and sort of cut it with a body line. I think this was Neil's sort of eye, and he cut it perfectly, and I think it came out better than I thought it would do as well. Front canards are typically intended to create a tiny bit of front downforce, and otherwise are supposed to be vortex generators, with a vortex running down the side of the car, you know, over the mirror to prevent areas of low pressure and across that side of the car to make the airflow quicker. Again, you know, with all things, these changes are probably quite minor. The very last thing that we wanted to fit were these wing vents as well. Now, these look really great, and the original plan was to, you know, it's quite involved. We had to cut quite large chunks of the front wings out just to fit them as well. So the opening you're seeing, there was a full-blown opening underneath the car as well. Now, originally we wanted to mount them on the underside of and then bolt them through, so you would have like a slightly sort of bolted on look. When we did the cutting, and I think this is just in how these are formed, it would have left a very large gap, so you would have been able to, and the panel thickness of the fiberglass on VXs are pretty thick as well, and like the lip that was allowed was nowhere close to the lip that would have been needed for it to sit level. And I think when a lot of people do this, I think actually they cut the lip out, suspend them, and then fiberglass sort of around the bottom of them. Is pretty involved, and we might still do that at some point. But when Neil was looking at it, his recommendation to me was, well, look, just bolt them on the top as well. So originally I was a little bit unsure about the look, but actually I think in the end they came out really nicely. Part of me wonders if I should have painted the rim. Part of me wonders if I go back and fit that properly. And again, because they are just bolted on, I can just bolt them off and remount them. We did seal them all around, which was really good. I think one of the things that I'm going to do now is, shortly after all this project work was finished, I decided that I was going to drive the car back home to Devon, and it was very lovely weather on the Saturday, and then there was literally a hurricane in the UK, and I had to drive this car back. It took me 7 hours driving at 50 miles an hour, and the car got thoroughly soaked, and simultaneously it has managed to break one of the HID ballasts that's in the front of the car, so I need to go and change that, probably because it got water in it. And I think one of the things left to do is we're going to put like an air membrane over the top, so we cut the arch, not sort of in one big bit, we cut slats into it, but I need to put something that allows air to pass in, but it's a slight bit water resistant. I think that's a job for another day. Anyway, once all of the works were completed, I think the car came out amazing, so check out this finishing montage. Meanwhile, on AK88 on cats, this is another cat. This is Mochi. He's not going to sneeze on me, but he doesn't want to get down. I don't think I could start AK88 on cats. I don't think it would work. You want to go out? Yeah, get it. Yeah, get it. Don't just stand half in the door then. Go, yeah. So after all, how much difference has these aero modifications made? Unfortunately, I've missed the season. It's now obviously late October, coming on to November 2024. So I'm going to have to save testing until next year. Am I expecting a big difference? Nah, no, absolutely not. Right? What's been really interesting going through this process is learning a little bit more about aerodynamics, both from Chris at Type 116 Motorsport, but I also watching a number of really informative YouTube channels that I definitely that you guys should check out. I'm going to put one of them up here, which is from a professor that writes books about aerodynamics, to another one down here, which is written by an aerodynamic engineer channel, and his videos are absolutely phenomenal as well, so I really recommend checking them out. So we might do one of those cotton swab tests. That might be really kind of interesting to do and kind of see where we can make some small modifications. I think one of them is probably actually generally on the mirrors as well, so I might replace the base plates from the standard VX1s with the one from the Exige, which actually have tiny holes in them. Actually, that is a place that creates quite a bit of drag on the rear side of those as well, so that would be a small saving. But most of the time we're talking about whether they're doing anything, who knows, and to the extent they're having an effect, we're probably talking about small percentages if best, but it's fun to learn and it's fun to try. So guys, thank you for tuning in today. I hope you like the slightly different sort of form factor today. I was hoping about doing one of these videos more generally when I was back at home, and I can do it outside in the great green grass of Devon, but unfortunately other priorities generally take precedent there, mainly looking after my family. So I will try more different ways to show you different videos. I don't know what I'm talking about. But if you like the video, please leave it a like or dislike. If you have any thoughts, if you have any questions, stick them down in the comments. I do try to read all the comments, good or bad. I'm just kind of interested to take place in the discussion. If you like this video, why don't you think about checking out some other AK88 on car videos, or if you're into computers and gaming, I have charted another smaller channel to do with PC modification that has a grand total of 1 video on it as well, but I should probably add more to it once I have the time. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for joining in today, and take care of yourself. Cheers. What about him? Why don't you shut up? Yeah, you shut up. I'll see you next time.